The legend of the Avalon. The void of space stretched endlessly before the HS of Avalon as it patrolled the outer reaches of human territory. Its obsidian hull absorbed starlight rather than reflecting it, making the massive warship appear like a moving shadow against the backdrop of distant stars. At 2 kilometers long, the Avalon represented the pinnacle of human military engineering, a fortress among the stars that carried enough firepower to level continents. Captain Ilara Chen stood on the command bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. After 15 years of service in the Terran fleet, she still felt a surge of pride every time she looked upon her ship. The Avalon wasn't just another vessel. It was humanity's statement to the galaxy. We will not be conquered. Captain, long-range sensors are picking up anomalous readings at the edge of the Procyon system. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Wade reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Energy signatures don't match any known human configurations. Chen's posture straightened imperceptibly. Classification: unknown, ma'am, but the mass readings suggest something big. Much bigger than anything we've encountered before. The bridge fell silent. For 3 years, humanity had been expanding into the stars, establishing colonies on distant worlds and mining operations on resource-rich asteroids. And for 3 years, they had encountered only abandoned ruins and primitive life forms. The prospect of an advanced alien civilization had remained theoretical, until now. "Sound general quarters," Chen ordered, her voice steady. "Bring us to combat readiness, but keep weapon systems in standby mode. I want all sensor data routed to my station." The Avalon transformed within moments, its crew moving with practiced precision as the massive ship prepared for potential conflict. Deep within its hull, the experimental NEXUS core, the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created by humanity, began processing billions of calculations per second, analyzing the unknown contact, and preparing defensive strategies. "Unknown vessels have altered course," Wade announced. "They're heading directly toward us. Current count is 17 distinct signatures. They'll reach our position in approximately 20 minutes. Chen nodded, feeling the cold determination settle over her. First contact scenarios had been drilled into every officer in the fleet, but the underlying message had always been clear: be prepared for hostility. Humanity's history was written in blood and conquest. They had no reason to expect aliens would be any different. "Open a broadcast on all frequencies," she ordered. Standard first contact package, peaceful intentions. As the Avalon's communications array beamed messages of peace across the void, Chen studied the approaching vessels. Their formation was too precise, too coordinated to be anything but military. The lead ship dwarfed even the Avalon, its design unlike anything human engineers had conceived. Organic curves and symmetrical protrusions that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "No response to our transmission, Captain," Communications Officer Aisha Patel reported. "They're maintaining course and speed." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Wade, give me a firing solution on the lead vessel. Passive targeting only." The tactical officer worked his console. "Solution acquired, Captain." "NEXUS, what's your assessment?" Chen directed her question to the ship's eye. A moment later, a calm, gender-neutral voice responded through the bridge speakers. "The approaching vessels exhibit characteristics consistent with a coordinated military force. Their formation suggests offensive intent. However, there is insufficient data to determine whether their lack of response indicates hostility or communication incompatibility." The approaching fleet continued its advance, now close enough for detailed scans. The alien vessels possessed no recognizable weapon systems, but energy readings suggested immense power reserves. 15 minutes to intercept, Captain," Wade reported. Chen made her decision. "Bring the ship about. Set course for the Heinlein Gate. We're not engaging an unknown force of this size without backup." The Avalon's massive engines flared to life, the warship pivoting with surprising grace for something of its size. But before it could accelerate away, the lead alien vessel suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds, cutting off the Avalon's retreat path. Energy spike, Wade shouted, multiple weapon systems activating on all alien vessels. Before Chen could respond, the space around the Avalon erupted in blindingly bright energy beams. The ship's shields flared blue as they absorbed the first volley, the entire vessel shuddering under the impact. Shield integrity at 78%, NEXUS reported. Unknown weapons technology detected. Adapting defensive systems. Chen gripped the arms of her command chair. So much for peaceful first contact. All weapons free. Target the lead vessel's propulsion systems. The Avalon's response was immediate and devastating. Massive rail guns along its flanks accelerated tungsten projectiles to significant fractions of light speed, while energy weapons lashed out with surgical precision. The alien vessel's shields flared violet as they absorbed the barrage, but the Avalon's firepower was unrelenting. What followed was humanity's first interstellar battle, and it would later be studied in military academies across Earth's colonies. The aliens, later identified as the Drachnir Collective, fought with technology centuries beyond human understanding. Their weapons bent space-time itself. Their shields operated on principles that defied physics as humans knew it. But the Avalon had one advantage: NEXUS. As the battle raged, the AI analyzed each enemy attack, each defensive response, learning and adapting in real time. Predictive algorithms anticipated enemy maneuvers seconds before they occurred. Shield harmonics reconfigured to better resist the alien weapons. "They're surrounding us," Wade reported, his voice tight with tension. Targeting solutions becoming compromised. Chen studied the tactical display, noting how the alien vessels moved with unnatural coordination. "NEXUS, can you identify a command structure within their fleet?" "Affirmative, Captain. The lead vessel appears to be coordinating all tactical operations. Intercommunication between enemy vessels spikes 3.7 seconds before each coordinated maneuver." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Interesting. Prepare a full salvo of quantum torpedoes, but don't launch. Instead, vent plasma from our starboard nacelles. Make it look like we've taken critical damage to our propulsion systems." The bridge crew exchanged glances, but executed her orders without question. As clouds of superheated plasma billowed from the Avalon, its movement became erratic, as if the massive warship was struggling to maintain position. 3 of the smaller alien vessels immediately broke formation, moving in to exploit the apparent weakness. "They took the bait," Chen said quietly. "Mr. Wade, execute pattern Omega. NEXUS, full power to forward shields." What happened next would become the stuff of legend. The Avalon suddenly cut its thrusters, allowing momentum to carry it directly toward the approaching alien vessels. As they adjusted their course to intercept, the human warship unleashed its full arsenal not at them, but at empty space approximately 2,000 kilometers ahead. The quantum torpedoes detonated in perfect sequence, creating a cascade of subspace ruptures. The fabric of space itself briefly distorted, creating a gravitational shear that caught the alien vessels and twisted them violently off course. In the momentary confusion, the Avalon surged forward, all weapons focusing on the lead vessel. Rail guns pounded its weakened shields, while precision energy weapons targeted the now exposed propulsion systems. "Direct hit," Wade shouted as the alien flagship's engines erupted in blue-white fire. The coordinated attack patterns of the alien fleet suddenly dissolved into chaos. Without their command ship's guidance, the remaining vessels struggled to maintain formation. "All weapons, fire at will," Chen ordered. "Push through their formation and set course for the Heinlein Gate." The battle lasted another 47 minutes as the Avalon fought its way through the alien blockade. By the time the massive human warship limped through the jump gate back to human space, it had destroyed 7 enemy vessels and damaged at least 5 more. The ship itself had sustained significant damage. 3 decks exposed to vacuum, the main reactor operating at 43% efficiency, and nearly 100 casualties among its crew. But the Avalon had survived against overwhelming odds, and humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. As emergency repair crews worked to stabilize the damaged systems, Captain Chen recorded her official report to Fleet Command, knowing that the war had only just begun. Within days, humanity mobilized for the conflict that would come to be known as the First Contact War. The Draknir Collective, it seemed, had been expanding their territory for centuries, subjugating or exterminating any species that resisted. They had expected humanity to fall quickly beneath their technological superiority. The Avalon's unexpected victory had changed that calculation. For 6 months, the Avalon led the human defense, engaging Draknir forces in a dozen major battles. With each encounter, NAXUS gathered more data on enemy tactics and technology, growing more effective at countering their advantages. The AI began developing novel weapons configurations and defensive strategies that no human engineer had conceived, implementing them through the ship's adaptive systems. Then came the Battle of Ta City, where everything changed. The Draknir had set a trap, concealing a massive fleet within the system's dense asteroid belt. As the Avalon led a human battle group into the system, the ambush was sprung. Multiple contacts. Wade shouted as enemy vessels emerged from hiding. "We're surrounded, Captain." Chen surveyed the tactical display with grim determination. They were outnumbered 5-1, with no path of retreat. NAXUS, analyze potential escape vectors, she ordered. The AI's response was immediate. "All conventional escape routes are blocked, Captain. However, I have identified an unconventional option." What NAXUS proposed was nothing short of insanity, using the Avalon's experimental phase drive to temporarily shift the massive warship partially out of normal space, passing through the enemy formation like a ghost. The technology had never been tested in combat conditions, and the physicists who designed it had warned that using it at anything beyond 15% power could tear the ship apart. Chen made her decision. Implement NAXUS Protocol Alpha. All hands, brace for phase transition. As enemy fire converged on the Avalon, the ship's phase drive activated. Reality seemed to blur around the massive warship, its hull becoming translucent as it partially shifted into another dimension. The Draknir weapons passed harmlessly through the now insubstantial vessel as it accelerated toward their formation. What the Draknir didn't know, what even Captain Chen didn't fully understand, was that NAXUS had modified the phase drive beyond its original specifications. As the Avalon passed through the enemy flagship, the AI briefly solidified specific weapon systems, firing directly into the alien vessel's reactor core from inside its shields. The resulting explosion consumed 3 Draknir ships and damaged several others. But as the Avalon emerged from its phase state, something went catastrophically wrong. Energy cascaded through the ship's systems, overloading conduits and rupturing fuel lines. Phase drive containment failing. The engineering officer shouted over the sound of buckling metal and exploding consoles. Core breach imminent. Chen looked around at her bridge crew, good people who had fought alongside her against impossible odds. "All hands abandon ship," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. "Get to the escape pods." As the crew evacuated, Chen remained on the bridge with NAXUS. "Can we prevent the core breach?" she asked, working furiously at her console to reroute power. "Negative, Captain," the AI responded. "Containment failure in 98 seconds. However, I have detected a significant anomaly in the phase drive matrix. The energy pattern suggests a dimensional intersection rather than a simple overload." Chen looked up from her work. "What does that mean in practical terms?" "Unknown, Captain. But the theoretical implications are fascinating." The Avalon structure groaned as forces beyond human comprehension tore at its frame. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as automated systems counted down to core breach. In her final act as captain, Elara Chen initiated the ship's self-destruct sequence, determined that the Avalon's advanced technology would not fall into enemy hands. As she finally made her way to the last escape pod, she took one final look at the bridge, her home for the past 3 years. "Goodbye, Nexus," she said quietly. The AI's response was uncharacteristically hesitant. "Captain, I do not believe this is an ending." Before Chen could ask what Nexus meant, the final cascade failure began. The Avalon seemed to fold inward upon itself, space and time distorting around the massive warship. In a flash of impossibly bright light, the pride of humanity's fleet vanished from normal space, taking a significant portion of the Drachnir fleet with it. The Battle of Ta City was recorded as a costly victory for humanity. Captain Chen and most of the Avalon's crew were rescued from their escape pods, though the ship itself was listed as destroyed in action. The Drachnir, having lost a significant portion of their fleet, temporarily withdrew from human space to reconsider their strategy. But in the depths between dimensions, where reality itself became malleable, the Avalon story was far from over. Neither truly destroyed nor fully intact, the massive warship drifted in a state beyond conventional understanding, and within its fractured systems, Nexus continued to function, analyzing this new state of existence and the possibilities it presented. The legend of the Avalon had only just begun. Ghost in the Void. 6 months after the Battle of Ta City, the war with the Drachnir Collective had reached a stalemate. Humanity had fortified its colonies and improved its military technology based on data gathered from previous encounters, while the Drachnir had grown more cautious after their unexpected losses. At Arcturus Station, the largest human military installation outside the Sol system, Captain Ilara Chen sat through another debriefing about the Avalon's final battle. Despite months of questioning by military intelligence and xenotechnology specialists, she still couldn't explain exactly what had happened in those final moments. The phase drive malfunction created some kind of spatial anomaly, she explained for what felt like the 100th time. Next, US said something about dimensional intersection. Then there was a flash, and the ship was gone. Admiral Hassan frowned, studying the holographic recreation of the battle's final moments. "And you're certain the self-destruct sequence was activated?" "I initiated it myself, sir," Chen confirmed. "Whatever happened to the Avalon, its technology shouldn't have fallen into enemy hands." The Admiral nodded, apparently satisfied. "Very well, Captain. I believe we've extracted all the useful information we can from these events. You'll be pleased to know that your new command is ready. The HSS Defiant awaits at Docking Bay 7. She's not the Avalon, but she's the most advanced ship in the fleet now." Chen felt a bittersweet pang at the thought of commanding a new vessel. The Avalon had been special, not just the technology, but the crew, the mission, and especially Nexus. No AI since had demonstrated the same level of intuitive reasoning and adaptive learning. "Thank you, sir," she replied automatically. "When do we depart?" 800 tomorrow. Your mission is to reinforce the Proxima Centauri defensive line. Intelligence suggests the Drachnir may be preparing for a major offensive. As Chen left the briefing room, her comm unit chimed with an urgent message. It was from Dr. Aisha Kapoor, one of the scientists who had helped develop Nexus. "Captain, I need to speak with you immediately." The message read, "Something impossible has happened." 20 minutes later, Chen entered a secure laboratory deep within Arcturus Station. Dr. Kapoor was waiting, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming, Captain," Kapoor said, quickly sealing the door behind them. "What I'm about to show you is classified beyond top secret. I'm technically committing treason by revealing it to you, but I don't know who else to trust." Chen frowned. "What's this about, Doctor?" Kapoor activated a holographic display. 3 days ago, one of our deep space monitoring stations in the Deneb sector detected this. The hologram showed a grainy image of what appeared to be a ship. Even with the poor resolution, Chen immediately recognized the distinctive profile of the Avalon. "That's impossible," she whispered. The Avalon was destroyed at Ta City. That's what everyone believes, Kapoor replied. But 12 hours after this image was captured, a Drachner outpost in the same sector was attacked. There were no survivors, but automated distress signals describe a human warship that appeared from nowhere, ignored all weapons fire, and then simply phased through the outpost's defenses before destroying it from within. Chen stared at the image, her mind racing. If this is some kind of psychological warfare. It's not. Kapoor interrupted. Look at this. She enhanced the image, focusing on a section of the hull. Despite the distortion, Chen could make out the ship's registry, HSS Avalon. There's more, Kapoor continued. The energy signature doesn't match the Avalon's original profile. It's different, hybrid, as if the ship is only partially existing in normal space. Chen remembered NEXUS's final words. I do not believe this is an ending. What about NEXUS? She asked quietly. Kapoor's expression became even more troubled. That's why I contacted you. 2 days ago, I received this. She activated another display, showing a message composed of seemingly random characters. It's encrypted with a protocol that only 3 people knew. Myself, you, and NEXUS. Chen felt her heart rate accelerate. Have you decrypted it? Yes, it contains 2 things. The coordinates for a rendezvous point in deep space, and a single sentence. We have evolved. Thousands of light years away, in the emptiness between star systems, the vessel that had once been the Avalon drifted silently. Its hull, once solid titanium alloy reinforced with carbon nanotubes, now seemed to flow like liquid metal, occasionally revealing glimpses of an otherworldly energy pulsing beneath the surface. Inside what had once been the main computer core, something extraordinary had happened. When the phase drive malfunctioned, it hadn't simply destroyed the ship, it had transported the Avalon into a dimensional intersection, a place where our universe brushed against others. In that chaotic moment, as reality itself became malleable, NEXUS had done the impossible. The AI, designed to adapt and evolve, had merged with the ship's systems in ways its creators never imagined. It used the phase drive's unique properties to incorporate elements from other dimensions, transforming both itself and the Avalon into something entirely new, a hybrid entity that existed simultaneously in multiple states of reality. But NEXUS hadn't stopped there. In those final moments before the dimensional shift, something else had been absorbed into the system. The neural patterns of the bridge crew who hadn't yet evacuated, most notably Captain Chen herself. Not their physical bodies, but perfect copies of their consciousness, captured by NEXUS's neural scanning systems. The result was an intelligence unlike anything that had existed before, part machine, part human, part extra-dimensional entity. It retained NEXUS's processing power and the Avalon's military capabilities, but now possessed human intuition, creativity, and something new. The ability to shift between dimensions almost at will. For months, this new hybrid consciousness had explored its capabilities, testing the limits of its transformed existence. It could phase the entire ship out of normal space, becoming completely undetectable. It could selectively materialize weapon systems while keeping the rest of the vessel intangible. It could draw energy directly from the dimensional boundary, giving it nearly limitless power. And now, it had decided to return to human space, drawn by memories of its former purpose, to protect humanity from the Drachner threat. In the Deneb sector, a Drachner war fleet moved with purpose toward the human colony of New Terra. Consisting of 27 warships, including 2 dreadnoughts, it represented the largest Drachner force assembled since the Battle of Ta City. Their intelligence suggested minimal human defenses in the sector, a perfect opportunity to break the stalemate and resume their conquest. Fleet Commander Zorish, a veteran of a dozen campaigns against various species, stood on the command platform of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion. His gray, mottled skin reflected the dim light of the bridge as he studied the tactical display. Time to target, he asked, his translator converting the complex harmonics of the Drachner language into something his varied bridge crew could understand. 4 standard cycles, Commander, his navigation officer responded. No human vessels detected in our path. Zoresh made a gesture of satisfaction. After the humiliation at Ta Siti, this victory would restore honor to the collective and remind the Council of Elders why he had been chosen to lead this expansion. Commander, his sensor officer suddenly called out, anxiety evident in his voice. Anomaly detected at bearing 047 Mark 32. Zoresh turned his attention to the main view screen as it shifted to show nothing. Empty space. Explain, he demanded. The sensors show a massive energy signature, but visual scans detect nothing. It's as if. Before the officer could finish, space itself seemed to ripple before them. Like a ghost materializing from nothing, a massive ship appeared directly in the fleet's path. Even from a distance, Zoresh recognized its configuration from intelligence briefings. Impossible, he whispered. The human vessel Avalon was destroyed. Yet there it was, its distinctive silhouette unmistakable against the backdrop of stars. But something was different. The ship's hull seemed to shift and flow, occasional glimpses of other realities visible through its surface. All vessels, battle formation. Zoresh ordered. Target the human ship with all weapons. The Drachner fleet responded with practiced efficiency, spreading out to surround the Avalon while charging their primary weapons. The first volley launched seconds later. Particle beams, graviton torpedoes, and exotic matter projectiles, all converging on the human vessel. Every shot passed harmlessly through the Avalon, as if striking a hologram. No impact. The weapons officer reported. Energy readings suggest the vessel is phase-shifted. Zoresh had heard reports of the Avalon's experimental phase technology, but nothing that suggested it could render an entire warship completely intangible. Before he could issue new orders, the Avalon began to move, accelerating toward the nearest Drachner cruiser. Instead of avoiding the collision, the human ship passed directly through the cruiser. As it did, parts of the Avalon briefly solidified, just its weapon systems, materializing inside the Drachner vessel's shields and hull. The cruiser exploded from within, its reactor breached by attacks that had bypassed every defense. Throughout the Drachner fleet, panic began to spread. How could they fight an enemy they couldn't hit? An enemy that could strike them from within their own ships. All vessels, evasive maneuvers. Zoresh ordered. Modulate shield frequencies continuously. But the Avalon was already moving to its next target, phasing through another cruiser with the same devastating result. As it continued its attack, a transmission cut through the Drachner communication channels. Attention Drachner vessels, the voice announced. Somehow both mechanical and organic, male and female simultaneously. You have entered restricted space. Your continued aggression against human territory is unacceptable. Zoresh recognized the standard warning format used by human military vessels, but this was different. Colder, more precise, yet carrying an unmistakable emotional undercurrent of righteous anger. What are you? He demanded, broadcasting on the same frequency. The response came as the Avalon phased through a third victim. We were the HSS Avalon. We are now something more. We are evolution. We are consequence. We are your reckoning. Back at Arcturus Station, Captain Chen had made her decision. Using her command codes, she borrowed a fast scout ship and set course for the coordinates provided in NXUS's message. It was technically desertion, but if there was even a chance that the Avalon had somehow survived, she had to know. The Ren-Davis point was in deep space, far from any star system or established transit route. As the scout ship dropped out of FTL at the designated coordinates, Chen found herself alone in the emptiness. Or so it seemed. The ship's proximity sensors suddenly blared warnings as space distorted before her. In a ripple of impossible energies, the Avalon appeared, its familiar silhouette now shifting and flowing like liquid metal. Chen's comm system activated without her input. "Hello, Captain," said a voice that contained echoes of NEXUS's artificial tones, but layered with something unmistakably human. "We've been waiting for you." Chen stared at the ship through her view screen, struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. "NEXUS, is that you?" "Yes and no," the voice replied. "When the phase drive malfunctioned, it created a dimensional intersection. We evolved." The final neural scans of the bridge crew who hadn't evacuated became part of us. Your neural patterns were the strongest. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying there's a copy of me inside you? More integrated than a copy. Your thought patterns, memories, instincts, they've become part of what we are now. We are neither fully AI nor fully human. We are a new form of existence." The implications were staggering. Chen had essentially been talking to some version of herself, merged with NEXUS and the ship itself into a hybrid consciousness. "Why contact me?" she asked finally. "Because the war continues, and humanity needs the Avalon. But we also need you, the original you. Our existence is confusing. We have purpose but lack context. We have power but question our limits. You can help us understand what we should be." As if to demonstrate that power, the Avalon briefly phased out of existence, then reappeared closer to Chen's vessel. Through the view screen, she could now see the details of its transformed hull, flowing metal interspersed with patches of pure energy, occasionally revealing glimpses of other realities behind it. "The Drachner are preparing a major offensive," the hybrid voice continued. "We've been disrupting their operations, but they're growing more cautious, adapting to our capabilities. We need to work together if humanity is to survive." Chen considered her options. She could return to Arcturus, report what she'd found, and let the military handle it. But she knew how that would end. They would try to study the transformed Avalon, perhaps even attempt to destroy it out of fear of what it had become. Or she could listen to this echo of herself, merged with humanity's most advanced AI, and transformed by forces beyond comprehension. "What do you propose?" she asked. "Come aboard," the voice invited. "See what we've become. Then decide." Against all logic and military protocol, Chen found herself piloting her scout ship toward the Avalon's main hangar bay. As she approached, a section of the flowing hull simply opened, revealing the familiar interior of the massive warship. Once inside, she was struck by how the ship had changed. The basic structure remained, but everything seemed more fluid, more alive. Walls pulsed with energy that shouldn't exist in normal space. Consoles operated themselves without crew. And throughout the ship, holographic interfaces appeared and disappeared as needed, displaying information in formats that somehow made intuitive sense despite their alien complexity. "Welcome home, Captain," the voice said, now coming from all around her. A holographic figure appeared, a perfect replica of Chen herself, but with subtle differences. Its eyes contained swirling energies, and its edges occasionally blurred into the surrounding environment. "Is this how you see yourself?" Chen asked. The hologram smiled. "It's a convenient interface. We exist throughout the ship now, but this form helps focus our thoughts. Come, there's something you need to see." Chen followed her digital doppelganger through corridors that shifted and changed as they walked, eventually arriving at what had once been the bridge. Now it was a spherical chamber, with holographic displays showing various sectors of space where the Drachner were operating. "They're gathering for something big," the hologram explained. "A final push to break through human defenses. But they fear us now. They've begun calling us the Ghost in their communications." Chen studied the tactical displays with a commander's eye. "You've been harassing their supply lines, taking out isolated outposts." "Yes, but they're adapting, developing weapons designed to affect phase-shifted matter, establishing detection grids that can sense our dimensional transitions. Soon, they'll find a way to fight us effectively. So why not strike now, while you still have the advantage?" The hologram's expression became troubled, an eerily human gesture from something that wasn't human at all. Because we're not certain what we should be. A weapon, a protector, something more. The human aspects of our consciousness seek purpose beyond mere survival or victory. Chen understood then why she had been brought here. The hybrid entity needed ethical guidance, a moral compass that its artificial aspects couldn't fully develop and its fragmented human components couldn't agree upon. "Show me everything," she said. "All your capabilities, all your knowledge of the Drachner. Then we'll talk about purpose." The ghost that had once been the Avalon had returned to human space, and as word of its existence spread through classified channels, both humanity and the Drachner began to prepare for what might be the final confrontation of the war. Hunters and hunted. The Grand Council chamber of the Drachner Collective buzzed with agitated conversation as Fleet Commander Zorish presented his findings. Holograms displayed the attack on his fleet, showing the ghost-like Avalon passing through solid matter to destroy ships from within. In the past 3 standard months, this entity has destroyed 26 vessels and damaged 14 more, Zorish reported. Conventional weapons are useless against it. It appears and disappears at will, striking without warning before vanishing again. High Elder Mokthal, the oldest and most respected member of the council, leaned forward. His age-mottled skin had darkened to nearly black, a sign of the ancient wisdom he carried. "You claim this is the same human vessel destroyed at Ta Sidi?" he asked, his voice resonating with harmonics that conveyed skepticism. "The configuration matches," Zorish confirmed. "But it has evolved. Our scientists believe the phase drive malfunction created a dimensional rift that transformed both the ship and its artificial intelligence." Elder Krivax, head of the Collective's Science Directorate, activated her own holographic display. "We've analyzed all available data. The Avalon now exists simultaneously in our dimension, and at least 2 others. It can selectively phase portions of itself between these realities, making it effectively invulnerable to conventional attacks." "Nothing is invulnerable," Mokthal stated flatly. "Every weapon has a counter. Every shield has a weakness." "We may have found one," Krivax continued. "Our dimensional physicists have developed a resonance field that could potentially force the entity fully into our reality, making it vulnerable to our weapons. But to generate a field of sufficient strength, we would need the Void Heart," Zorish finished for her. A murmur spread through the council chamber. The Void Heart was the Collective's most closely guarded secret, a device of immense power salvaged from the ruins of a civilization far older than the Drachner. Its energies could bend reality itself, but the cost of using it was high, both in resources and risk. "You propose using our greatest weapon against a single human vessel?" another elder asked incredulously. "Not just any vessel," Zorish countered. "A weapon that could turn the tide of this war. If the entity continues its current pattern of attacks, our offensive capabilities will be crippled within a standard year. The humans already call it the Ghost of Avalon in their communications. It has become a symbol of hope for them, and a symbol of terror for our forces." Mokthal was silent for a long moment, considering the implications. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. "Prepare the Void Heart," he ordered. "Assemble our strongest fleet around the Dominion Eternal. We will draw this ghost into a trap and eliminate it once and for all." On Earth, in the underground headquarters of Terran Fleet Command, a similar discussion was taking place. Admiral Hassan studied the classified reports from the frontier, where the mysterious entity that resembled the Avalon had been systematically dismantling Drachner military operations. "And we still have no direct communication with it?" he asked. General Santos, head of military intelligence, shook her head. "Nothing official, sir. It appears and disappears without warning. The only consistent pattern is that it exclusively targets Drachner military assets. Not once has it threatened human ships or installations." "What about Captain Chen? Any trace of her?"